Live from the Momo Pizzeria and Ristorante Studios at 44th and O. Morning radio for the entire capital city. This is LNK Today with Jack and Friends on the voice of Lincoln, 1499.3 KLIN.
All right, welcome back. Happy Tuesday morning to you right now. 30 degrees in the capital city. Sunny skies. We're going to be back in the 50s later today. Things are looking good. Spring is near. Spring football is getting kind of near. And a man who will be figuring largely in that and has only been here 2 months. My goodness. Seems like a lot longer to me. I don't know what it feels like to him. Nebraska head football coach Matt Rhule joins us right now. Coach Rhule, good morning. How you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on.
Good. 2 months? Seem like more than that? Seems like more than that to me.
I don't know, man. I'm day by day, morning by morning right now.
Yeah, exactly. So glad to have you. I wanted to introduce you to our. We're the hometown affiliate for Nebraska football for your team, and we realized we got a lot of commonalities with you. Now, number one, I like you. I'm a pastor's kid. I'm about the same age as you, so I've got that. In fact, in your opening remarks, you referenced what was happening and what you were doing in August of 1983, August 29th, 1983, to be exact, at the Kickoff Classic. Going to that, I was not there, but I was a 6-year-old pastor's kid, oddly passionate football fan that wanted nothing more than to beat Penn State, that I had just learned what bad calls were the year before. So I'm in the same boat as you. And the guy to my left, our traffic guy, Chris Lofgren. Say hi, Chris.
Hi, Coach.
Try again, Chris.
Hi, Coach.
Chris was at the game. You may have seen him. Chris, you were the coach of the cheer squad at that point, right?
Yeah.
At East Rutherford, New Jersey.
We had a lot of stuff going on that day. We were also celebrating, my wife and I, our wedding. And so it was a working trip. So I had to go to the game, and I also worked for the Alumni Association at the time. And we had the cheer squad, and then my responsibilities were hosting the Husker pep rallies before away games, and we had a pep rally in Central Park in New York City.
Wow.
That was really fun.
Wow. Right by your stomping grounds there, Matt, at that point, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And then we got our news guy, Mark, who, this is interesting because I know your family moved east from suburban Kansas City. Mark, at that time in 1983, was managing a radio station in Topeka, Kansas, WIBW, that your folks might have listened to K-State Royals or K-State football on. Right, Mark? Did I have that right? The information right there?
Pretty much, yeah. It was about that time that I got into the Kansas market. So welcome to Nebraska, Coach, and looking forward to a great season.
Thank you.
And then Caleb Henry, our sports director, who was not alive at that
I'm
point.
the baby millennial.
He's our millennial. We got the two boomers. I'm the X. He's the millennial. So Caleb, take it away. What do you got?
All right. Well, Coach, because I'm the sports director, I'll actually ask you a question here.
Yeah.
So you guys have been here, and I'm very curious where that desire comes from for you. And you've obviously done it other places, but to make an impact in the community, make yourself known to a local community, your presence known across the state with all of the high schools. You've been at other Husker events. Like, where does that desire come from for you to be known and be part of a community, even though you've only been here a couple of months?
Well, I'd say, first of all, it's not to be known, but I am part of the community. I live here, right? So, I'm just a regular guy. Like I went to the basketball game the other day because I wanted to watch it. I wanted to watch the game, right? I wanted to see the basketball game. Then I walked. I'm renting a little apartment downtown. I walked home afterwards, and people were kind of like shocked that I'd be walking with the people, home. And I'm like, well, I'm a person, and I have to get home. So, I think like a little too much is probably made of it. That being said, when you talk about the community, I do feel a strong part of, like, all of our lives should be to impact the community and leave a place better than we found it. So any way that I can do that, I'm proud of all the student athletes here at the University of Nebraska. And so whether it was going over to UNO and meeting the hockey team, whether it was watching the women's tennis team last week, whether it was watching gymnastics, women's basketball, football, then the track meet. Like, I'm only going there to support the student athletes, A, because I like to watch sports, but B, I see these kids. I see them in the training tables. I see them training, and so I want to, I want to support them, right? So, because I want them to be seen. So it's nothing special like, hey, I want people to be like, wow, Coach Rhule's awesome or Coach Rhule's great or anything. I'm going to go enjoy, living my life, and I'm going to go to dinner, and I'm going to go see shows, and I'm going to do what everyone else does.
Hey, Coach, you mentioned, being in an apartment, I know your family's not here yet, and I know you also have a bunch of assistants that are there that are probably managing kind of the logistics of relocating at different times and all the things. Like, I know you don't want to be a, kind of a woe is me or woe is us sort of a situation, but like, legit, what is that situation like for you and your staff where you're sort of managing the logistics of your life and then going like drinking from a fire hose right away with this job as well when it comes to recruiting, meeting your current roster, working in the transfer portal, finishing out your staff and those sorts of things?
Yeah, the work's the work. The work's fun. I mean, it's, this is what we like to do. I mean, I like to recruit. I like to get to know new people. I like to get to know the guys on the team. We've been trying to do a good job of eating a lot of meals with the guys and spending time with the guys, whether that's, last night we had, meetings, and then we had Chick-fil-A for everybody afterwards, or, going to breakfast and lunch with the guys, or, I've been trying to take a couple guys out to dinner here and there just to get to know them. So that part's fun. The only part that's difficult is, as you said, like, it's not being around my kids, I did this 3 years ago, and now I'm back away from them for several months at a time. And, every time you see them on FaceTime, they're a little bit more bigger, a little bit different. Yeah. So that part's not fun, but, we have to make sacrifices in life, and I'm hopefully doing it for the right reasons.
Coach, there's been a lot to do about watching the staff come together. Where were guys going to come in? Offensive coordinator, different assistants, the support staff, and we talked a lot about before you put your staff together what the size of that assistant pool was going to be. But then we also watched the size of that support staff. For you, what's the benefit of having a support staff that size that's the biggest in the Big Ten Conference?
Yeah, well, we're trying to do it. Alabama and Georgia have taught everybody how to win nowadays. Okay, and so you have to have people around. Not we don't have 100 just analysts that are doing football. We have 100 or whatever. We have 30, 40. We have people here whose jobs are dedicated to either A, recruit athletes, or B, have elite wellness, elite player development, elite relationships. Because in today's age of the transfer portal, you better have a bunch of people in your organization that wake up every day and are saying, like, hey, what can I do for our student athletes? How can I help their emotional well-being, mental well-being, career well-being, life skills well-being? So we have a bunch of people here that are grinding away at that. A lot of staffs all over the country that they're still putting that on the 10 assistant coaches like they did, 25, 30 years ago. But the world has changed. The parameters have changed, man. And they're burning out coaches. And so we have a bunch of people here. I mean, we work a lot of hours, but we do it for the benefit of the student athletes. And so, it's different than maybe what was here before, but people want to be here. And most importantly to me, I want people that are waking up every day saying, how can I serve the student athletes? How can I serve the men of Nebraska football?
Coach, I'm sure you've spent obviously a lot of time over the last couple of months, watching film, watching films of potential recruits, transfers, probably the existing team as well. You gotten to meet these guys and those sorts of things, but you still haven't really got to watch them in person play football. And I know you've gone through this at other stops, but like how big of a difference does actually being on the field, getting to see them practice once you get to do that in the spring? How far does that take you in really understanding sort of what you've got, the character of team, who these guys are?
Yeah, I think you have to reserve all judgment till then, and more importantly, a lot of guys who they are as 18 and 19-year-olds is not who they will be as 21 and 22-year-olds. I've got two kids playing in the Super Bowl for the Eagles. One's on IR, one's Hassan Reddick, who probably should be the Defensive Player of the Year. If you would have talked about both of those guys as freshmen or sophomores, you would have thought, well, maybe they'll be good college players. And then Hassan ends up a first-round draft pick. Sean ends up a draft pick. So, good coaches and good staffs, they develop the student athlete. So, right now I see bodies changing. I see, I see guys, getting bigger, faster, stronger, hopefully more confident. We'll start our, morning workouts with the coaching staff, not just the strength staff, this Wednesday. Mm-hmm. And then as we get into spring ball, a lot of guys, again, maybe they're in the right position, maybe they're not. Maybe they need to lose 5 pounds, gain 5. There's so many things. And so, what I tell our staff is it's not their job to figure out who the starters are going to be next year. It's not their job to worry about the roster. It's their job to treat every player like their own son and say, hey, what's the best way that I can help him get on the field and be successful? And we'll do that for every guy. And what's going to be great is there's going to be some kids, that maybe people aren't really thinking about that are going to end up being really, really good players for the Huskers just because of the way that they're working.
I know the best mentality for any profession is to just control what you can control in front of you. Is there ever something as you've gone through these first couple of months and going forward, just out of the corner of your eye, where the other coaches through that coaching carousel, especially 2 that are going to be on your schedule with Deion Sanders at Colorado, Luke Fickell at Wisconsin. I know you talked about trying to play Madden and all of a sudden there's Prime on there while you're trying to do stuff with recruits, but is there ever out of the corner of your eye just keeping tabs on where some of these guys are?
Not really keeping tabs. I think the one thing, I got a lot of free time because when I do get home at night, there's no one there, right? Normally I'm watching the Real Housewives or something with my wife or watching a basketball game. So I have a chance now. I'll get on YouTube and Coach Sanders. They have everything. They film everything, right? And so it's a really cool way of doing it. Kids that go there get a lot of exposure. It's not my way of doing it. Like I would prefer not to have any cameras anywhere. I do put some in there and release some videos for the fans and recruits and the guys on the team, right? But they film a lot of stuff. And so for me, when I can, I love to watch it because it's like, watching Hard Knocks, you have a chance to really see what your guys are doing. And that to me is, it's a chance for me to be a better coach, watch what other people are doing and saying to myself, hey, should we be doing this? Should we be doing that? So any chance I get to do that, I definitely will.
What's that experience like of watching your own team? I'm assuming you went back and watched your own team in previous games, your own players that are coming back to get an idea. What's that experience like? Do you find yourself cheering for them? Are you impressed? What are you looking for at those moments? And obviously these guys now, but what did that experience kind of make you think about the guys that you do have come back who have sort of been through the roller coaster of what this program's been the last few years?
Well, you're talking about the current Huskers?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think it really happened this whole season because, I knew I was obviously involved in this job. Whether it worked out or not, I didn't know that. But, so I watched all the games kind of, trying to study the team and study kind of where the program was at. Obviously we had kind of agreed that morning and then the Iowa game happened. So, watching that game and watching the grit and character of both the coaching staff and the players, I thought said a lot. But, what I like to do right now is I literally will, most of the guys on this team, I watch, kind of a cut up from the season of them playing, and then I try to watch practices. I think you can learn a lot about a team from the way they practice. And then a lot of these guys, I go back and watch their high school huddle tapes, like I watch their high school film. And, it's good. Some of the kids haven't played, but I can go back and see their high school film and see sort of what they can do. And again, I'm not doing that to evaluate them. I'm doing that to help get them in the right spots or give them the opportunities that they deserve.
By the way, what is it like staying at your potential boss's house while you're sort of deciding whether or not to keep the job? That had to be an interesting experience, huh?
No, well, let me say this. Angie Alberts made the whole thing be pretty elite. I mean, she picked us up, and she was, we didn't know them, and she was so kind and unassuming and friendly and gracious, and like my wife is like a perfectionist, right? So to like stay at someone else's house, like just without knowing them, but Angie just made it so good, so comfortable. I think that's a big reason why we felt comfortable about the job. Was just spending that time with Trev and Angie and knowing that at the end of the day, I believe being a head coach, you need to have an elite partnership with somebody, and so I had an elite relationship with my AD at Temple, Pat Graff, an elite relationship with my AD at Baylor, Mac Rhodes. And so I wasn't going to take a job unless I had that sort of feeling about the next AD, and probably spending the night. I'm kind of a messy guy too, so my wife made me clean everything up. And,
like you really got to feel like you got to make the bed really nicely when you leave. I feel like and that kind of like not leave toothpaste stains, that kind of stuff.
bounce a quarter off that thing, so.
But you reference a little bit, and I know Nebraska fans are really familiar with what you did at Temple, what you did at Baylor, and those transitions. You got a lot of people around you from those situations as well. Do you have any sense? But obviously, not every job is the same. Do you have any sense of how this I don't know if it's a rebuild is the right word or not, but what you're doing here is different because everyone is going to be different. And I know a lot of people are going to say, okay, this is kind of the trajectory. This is how Rhule does it. He goes through it. He hires these types of guys. This is what he does. But how is Nebraska, at least from what you can tell now, how does it feel a little bit different than those, even though I think you're probably hoping for the same result?
Well, let me say this: it's definitely a rebuild because they won 4 games last year and 3 games the year before, and 3 games. So that part of it, it's not what was happening wasn't working. So it's definitely a rebuild. Now, what does a rebuild mean? I think you rebuild your team every year. You know what I'm saying? I think every year you look at what you have and say, okay, what do we need to do? I like the players that are here. I think the team has been close at times, but sometimes that can be a disease, right? The disease of being close, the close loss, we're better than, no, at the end of the day, you go out to play, either you win, you lose, and you go from there. I will say this, when I walked into a Temple with a team that I had been a part of, a year before, but they were moving up in conference, right? So anytime you move up in conference, that's going to be difficult, and so that was sort of the challenge early on, was just we had to get the roster to where it's supposed to be. When I went to Baylor, they were coming off a scandal. We had 45 players. We had 3 offensive linemen when we finished that spring. I had to move 2 tight ends. The offensive line, I played with 2 guys on the O-line that were less than 280 pounds. I mean, I know that season will always be on my record, but, I was proud of what we did that year. That was hard. Mm-hmm. This is, to me, this is a team that won 4 games that probably could have won 6, but that has some good players. I'm excited about where we are, and I don't believe that we have to lose. I don't believe we shouldn't have high expectations. We also shouldn't have. I'm trying to teach these guys we shouldn't have any expectations other than today. It's so uncool. And you said earlier, control what you can control, but really the great ones, man, they just wake up every day and they worry about today. And so those are the things that we're trying to rebuild: the players' confidence, right? The players' expectations. I'm not saying it was wrong. Just I haven't been here with them, and the way I do it's different than probably how Mickey and Scott did it, different than how Coach Riley did it. But I am only going to be able to teach what I know. It's not saying it's any better. It's just what I know. And if the players buy into it, then hopefully we have a chance to be a good team.
Last question for you, Coach Rhule. Appreciate your time. You're going to get a million questions about the quarterback position over the next few months, and I know you don't have an answer about it yet. But I guess what I always wonder is you've got you got a returning starter come back, you got a transfer coming in. I assume, and correct me if I'm wrong, but wouldn't it be a boon to have 2 guys with significant starting experience on the roster come in the fall? Is that something that you really want to see? Is that kind of the hope with this whole thing? Or I know you don't know how it's going to play out, but I think a lot of people see that and they're like, okay, what exactly is going to happen with this?
Yeah, again, when I say, no expectations, I really mean that. My job is to recruit the best players and put them in the rooms. And so you look at the teams that are winning at a high level right now, the Georgias, the Alabamas, the Ohio States, to be quite frank, they recruit the best of the best, and there's elite competition, and then they let it rip, right? So, talking about it doesn't really do much. For me, it's like, hey, we have to recruit the best players. When Jeff Sims came available, Jeff's an elite player to me. I mean, I've watched him. I think he's an NFL player. Watching Casey play last year, I thought he played really, really well. Sometimes under really difficult circumstances, mm-hmm. And so. We're going to coach them all. I think that, when you watch the things that Chubba did, he did some really good things when he was in there. Again, it's sometimes in difficult circumstances. So it's as healthy a quarterback room probably as there is in terms of the depth. I mean, Richard Torres, Logan Smothers has played. Heinrich Harburg is a really, really good athlete, one of the fastest guys probably in our combo group. So I've never walked into a room this good, who plays and all that, and that's all going to be earned. So I think it's a good situation. I think it's a real benefit, and I'm excited to see those guys get out there. And obviously, Casey can't do spring ball, but excited to see Jeff and the guys who could do spring ball get out there and really start to learn this offense.
Coach, I know you're busy. I appreciate your time. Look forward to talking to you more. I don't know if you made any grown men cry like Satterfield did when he was talking about the fullback, but maybe that'll come along the way, because he definitely did that. There were definitely grown men crying in the state of Nebraska. I heard about it after the fact. But do appreciate your time, Coach. Look forward to talking again, and best of luck. We're pulling for you as the affiliate.
Thanks, guys.